welcome to the Aucademy Christmas Live. Sorry, this is really awkward. I drew the short straw, and apparently I'm introducing it tonight. But I'm not good at making introductions. So, yeah, if you remember last year, it was complete chaos, and now we're on top of it. It's even worse. Basically, we're going to do some Christmassy things tonight. So we should probably start with image descriptions. I'll go first. I'm David Gray Hammond. I am a white person of Mediterranean descent. I have a freshly shaved head that I specially shaved for tonight. Thick rimmed glasses, a beard, a lip piercing, and an orange ear tunnel. I'm wearing a shirt covered in skulls, wearing Santa hats. I'm in a room that is illuminated, kind of bluey purple color, and I have twinkly lights in the shape of a horse's back end. And I'm sat next to a very rickety bookcase that gives everyone anxiety. So, Ben, would you like to go next with your image description? Ben says, "Hello, I'm Ben, a white young man with dark blonde hair in a white Captain America Christmas jumper." Thank you, Ben. Katie, would you like to go next?
Yeah, sure. I'm Katie Monday. I use they, them pronouns. I am a fairly sizable white person. You can see me from kind of the shoulders upwards. I'm wearing large brown and orange glasses. My hair's parted to the side. It's quite short. I'm not any more interesting looking than that, I'm afraid. And I'm sat in my front room in front of Simon's favourite green old lady curtains. Ta-da!
Wonderful. And Tanya?
Hello, my name is Tanya. I am a white woman with brown glasses on, and my dark reddish brown hair is tied back. I am wearing a black polo neck, and I am sat at my desk in my front room, and you can see my Christmas tree behind me.
Excellent. And finally, Victoria.
I'm a white, older person with glasses and long grey hair with a black cockapoo sat next to me called Poppy. I'm wearing a navy blue hoodie and sat on a pink velvet sofa.
Very good. Now we all know what we look like. Holiday special. We're going to do some different things. You can tell I'm really well prepared.
We're going to do all the things, aren't we? We're going to do all the things because we're so organised. So what we're going to do, we were going to look at the news over the past year, which is pretty grim, but we thought we'd get the grim stuff out of the way first and have a chat about that, and then hopefully we'll get happier as we go on, won't we?
Fingers crossed.
That's the idea. So, okay. David, autistic news.
I don't know how to do it. So, yeah, okay. First of all, we have the Oliver McGowan mandatory training that went live this year. It was a bit of background for people. Trigger warning that it involves the death of an autistic person. So Oliver McGowan was a young man who was in hospital, and they didn't understand autistic people at all. They administered a particular medication to Oliver that he was sensitive to, and unfortunately this caused him to have a serious reaction that ultimately killed him. What it did was it really shone a light on the lack of understanding of autistic people in healthcare in the way that we're often ignored when we talk about our experiences. His mother, Paula McGowan, campaigned for a long time, and eventually what that led to was the Oliver McGowan mandatory training in autism and learning disability. it's historic in the sense that it's the first training of its kind where it's mandatory. But I guess there is that question of, does this training go far enough? Does anyone want to weigh in here?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's good because it is the first time that actually, it is mandatory, and there is no mandatory training for anybody, not police, not social workers, not even disability social workers, really, which is really important. But yeah, I mean, from what I've seen, it is just e-learning, but at least it starts. It's a start, isn't it, to recognise that it's needed?
Yeah, and I think everything has to start somewhere.
Is that your dog in the background, David?
No, it's probably my chair creaking.
Yeah, we can hear your chair creaking.
Yeah. So, it all has to start somewhere, doesn't it? You know, we need these things to become more commonplace. But I think it would be nice to see more than e-learning when it comes to disabled people's lives.
Yeah, ideally, yeah. But I think that as well, things are moving. I think that people are recognizing that there is a massive gap, So there we go. Anyway, what we got next? Does it get any less depressing?
No.
Oh, no.
Another trigger warning. This also involves the death of an autistic person. So you may have seen in the news that there is a inquest currently ongoing about a young man known as Chris Nota. He was an autistic young person who was under the care of Essex Mental Health Services. Repeatedly, his family and himself asked for support and help. He was denied support and help, quite frankly. And as a result, he eventually completed suicide. And it's more than just a tragic loss for his family. It is evident once again that autistic people in settings where they're supposed to be cared for are being failed time and again. And currently there is a coroner's inquest ongoing, which should conclude, I believe, in early January. And this inquest is really highlighting the way that autistic people are mistreated and ignored by mental health services. And, there is a real attitude, I think, amongst these services when things go wrong of closing ranks. And rather than admitting what they've done wrong and trying to do better, it's trying to placate people and shift blame onto literally anyone but them.
Yeah. And unfortunately, we see it all the time, don't we? So on the one hand, things are moving because we've realised that actually training does need to be mandatory, and there is a massive hole in knowledge, which we all work for that every day. But also, it's like, is it fast enough? Is it going to be fast enough?
The problem is the truth is it's never going to be fast enough. That whether we care to admit it or not, there are people dying every day, autistic people suffering every day because services do not meet their needs. Services do not create environments that support them. But I only hope that inquests such as this one shine a light on the bad practices that are going on and push us into a world where people do better by each other.
Yeah. Okay. What have we got next?
Yes. We couldn't not talk about Spectrum 10K, really, could we? I'm sure you will remember last year the fairly lengthy boycott Spectrum 10K campaign that a lot of us here were involved in, if not all of us. I lose track of who was involved in what because there were so many of us working on that campaign that well, let's cut to the chase. Spectrum 10K, if you haven't heard of it, which, to be honest, I'll be surprised if you haven't heard of it at this point. It was a study which wanted the DNA of 10,000 autistic people. And the aim of this study was to supposedly look at genetic causes for co-occurring conditions amongst autistic people. And in a completely non-suspicious way, they promised us it was not going to be used for eugenics. Well, a member of the autistic community, in fact, did a Freedom of Information Act request, and it was, I believe it was published. I can't remember who by. Was it Leah Modell? Published the Freedom of Information Act request, did an article on it, and Simon Baron-Cohen and his team, in their proposal, had actually written that they were looking for the genetic causes of autism. So I don't know, Simon. Seems a little bit eugenicsy. We, as a team, submitted a huge document of ethical concerns to the Health Research Authority that detailed myriad ethical issues, and amongst that was the concern about the potential use for eugenics. The Health Research Authority spent months and months and months telling us that they were still considering all of the aspects of our concerns, and during this time, the study itself had to be paused. The Health Research Authority have indeed come back to us this year and said that they're allowing them to continue because they believe all the ethical issues have been dealt with. It
was basically I'm sorry you feel that way, wasn't it?
Yeah. We always knew we were never going to stop it. The only thing we really hope is that other people will think twice before doing such unethical research again. And we can still continue to boycott Spectrum 10K. Just because the study's ongoing doesn't mean you have to submit your DNA to them.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. There was just like you say, just a myriad of just red flag, dumpster fire. This red flag is on fire. Like everything you read about. I mean, you've only got to look at the research team and just think, yeah, all of those people hate autistic people.
Yeah.
So, I wonder what they're going to do with that information. That's really interesting.
One of them was literally in an organization that was built around hating autistic people.
Around curing autism.
Yeah.
So, and then obviously none of us have been taken seriously because we're autistic people, but because we're online and therefore considered, some kind of functionality, and therefore we're not autistic enough to talk about things. Yes, it's just been a whole ableist
or too autistic to know what we're talking about because it's science. Don't forget that one.
So both. So that's brilliant. When quite a lot of the not that I think you have to be scientific or academic to have your say in this at all, but when you look down the list of people who put their stuff in there, they're like researcher, doctor, autism researcher, and you're like, yeah, you can't even stand on that, mate. Like, most of us are based in research, so
yeah. And this is the thing, like, we don't enjoy stereotypes, but there is definitely a little bit of truth to autistics are definitely not anti-science in any way, shape or form. Who was it that said that we were anti-science? Was it Chris Packham?
Yeah.
Chris Packham turned around and said all these autistics are anti-science, and I was just kind of like, autistic science? That no.
And also,
he's an autistic person who's massively into biology.
Yeah.
And let's be honest. We weren't anti-science. We were anti-not existing anymore.
Yeah, I'm anti-science that wants to kill me.
Yeah, which I think is justified, really.
Yeah. How dare we complain about wanting to be, them wanting to eradicate us? How dare we? But this is the thing. If you have to go on national TV as Sir Professor Simon Baron-Cohen and state that you are not about eugenics, you're probably about eugenics. Like, that's not something you have to say, is it? It's almost like
eugenics, but
yeah. Like, no offense, but usually followed by offense.
That's like stealing a packet of shortbread whilst telling people you're not there to steal a packet of shortbread. That's an inside joke that I may or may not explain later.
You will do. You're seething about it. We know. And this was all under the guise of like, oh, this is the information we're going to have and what we're going to do with it once we've analysed it is going to improve the well-being of autistic people.
No,
Well, I could name you about 20 things off the top of my head, and I know we all could, that would help autistic people like that.
and we
Better
didn't
mental
have
health
to
services,
out doing it.
easier to get PIT, easier to get a blue badge. That's just the people who are on this screen right now, let alone other people who need help with schooling and various other things. Like, my spit in a jar is not going to improve my well-being.
And this is the thing, isn't it? They did like no consultation with autistic people. So they sat there like these privileged people going, we're going to improve your well-being. Well, did anybody ask us what we want for well-being? Because clearly you didn't, you know?
But then they said that this is going to have no impact on it anyway. This is, you're not going to gain any benefit from this either.
I mean, I don't know.
They had that in their participant information sheet, didn't they?
Mm.
Yeah. Yeah, that's
I don't know. I don't know. It just sounds, if somebody's trying to baffle you with so many different things and don't know what they're saying, it's usually because they're covering something up. You know, call me suspicious, but there we go.
So yeah, you know, in summary, it's a nightmare. So, Sir Professor Simon Baron-Cohen, I fart in your general direction.
Yes.
And do you know the one other thing as well? Like, he's supposed to know autistic people, isn't he? He's like a world famous autism researcher. Did he not bloody think that we would do our homework? I mean, genuinely, it's a little bit of an insult, isn't it? Honestly.
Or maybe conspiracy. Maybe we've just played into what he wanted us to, and maybe that's hyped up.
I don't know.
Whatever. I don't know. Possibly not that, but like, yeah, when they've got people going on and talking about it on like Good Morning Britain and shit like that, and you're like,
yeah.
You know, no offense to them, but like, is it Paddy McGuinness and his wife? I don't know, she's newly diagnosed autistic, I believe, or possibly ADHD. And I'm like, they're all very well-meaning and stuff, but if you think we don't know a lot about research, I don't know what a TV show host knows about research or academia.
I feel like they almost took advantage of people in that way. Say, come and like promote this. This is a really good thing because I'm a rich white doctor man who's like, you know, got a knighthood and stuff. And I just feel like it's not only taking advantage of the autistic community, and obviously, you know, parents of vulnerable children, because they were asking for children's spit as well, weren't they? That's complete consent issues. But also taking advantage of the people that they wanted to push it for them because they didn't have a clue. You know,
you can see Victoria's just made a really good point as well when we were talking about the McGuinnesses. They said about whether they've actually told their children that they're autistic yet, because obviously they've done their TV show series and it's okay to be autistic. It's okay to be autistic. It's okay to be autistic. Have you told your kids they're autistic? Oh no, no, not that. So it's a bit
it's
peculiar.
Okay for everybody else to be autistic.
Yeah,
you know?
And it's all right for me to tell millions of people across the world about my child's own diagnosis.
I mean, it's like, how are those children going to feel in later? Do they not think that their children are not going to go and see that? It's just...
Oh, Lordy. Admission of the truth is a lie, guys. Jeez. Right, who have we got next?
Yeah. I just want to add one more thing to Spectrum 10K, if you don't mind. I won't go on forever, I promise. What do they call them? Ambassadors. They had Spectrum 10K ambassadors, right? So they had Chris Packham, who I genuinely think is a very nice, well-mannered person who thought he was doing a good thing and kind of really got entangled in something that he didn't perhaps quite know what was going on. My personal opinion. Then the McGuinnesses, obviously, and then they had another person whose name I hadn't even heard of before and can't remember it now, if I'm honest with you, who was absolutely vile to hundreds of autistic people online. also made racist comments about people as well, and transphobic comments about that.
Yeah,
And
they were
then
really
I know
filthy.
myself and other people sent emails to various people to say, you really need to sort your ambassador out, because she's being really hateful to a great deal of people, and then nothing has happened of that. So even if this isn't eugenics, they also don't mind kind of supporting racist and transphobic ideas as well, and they're not going to do anything about that. So
I don't know. I just think with all that money and stuff at their disposal, they could have done a better PR job. They could have at least tried to cover it up, couldn't they? Is that not a little bit insulting? You know, they could have made it a little bit harder for us to figure out what was going on.
But then the end result is that it's still carrying on anyways.
Yeah, well, we'll see what comes in 2023. It may not be the end of Boycott Spectrum 10K just yet. How are you feeling spoons wise, people? There we go. Oh, yeah. From one horrible thing to another.
I promise this is the last overtly horrible thing. So, at least in the news roundup, you haven't heard us sing yet. So, yeah. So, the National Autistic Society, as you may have guessed from the graphic, they're not our favourite people right now. So following a huge number of safeguarding complaints, the Department of Education decided to investigate the National Autistic Society. And following this, for completely unrelated reasons, the National Autistic Society have withdrawn from all of the schools that they run. The complaints were a teacher bringing a sword into school, 1,200 violent incidents in 6 months, and I don't know what trigger warning specifically to give you for the last one, but just be prepared that it's really upsetting. The last one I'm going to tell you is that one of the students was found eating a dead rat. When you add this to all the other horrible stuff that has happened under the watchful eye of the National Autistic Society, you start to understand why the autistic community doesn't particularly like them. I mean, to be fair, if you look back at their history and what their logo started as, that should tell you what you need to know. But really, it's just, you can change the logo, you can do a big PR campaign. If you've got kids eating dead rats in your school, something is going very wrong there. So, yeah, National Autistic Society, like, I don't think they're okay.
Come on, you know? Try a bit harder.
I mean, try a lot harder.
Well, yeah.
Like,
the thing is, with a company that has the amount of resources that they do and the amount of funding that they do, everything should just be like a million times better than it is. And just more accessible and more thought through, and yeah, not even just on a safeguarding level, which is obviously problematic, but like just on a kind of
human level.
Yeah, like what's your plan? Like, you know, it's just they don't seem to have a long-term plan to actually make life easier and better for autistic people.
Well, it's the charity model, isn't it? It's the charity model. They're essentially a business. They're there to make money, and they make money from other people feeling sorry for autistic people. That's the only way a charity can really make money, you know? And obviously they're there to make money if they can't even safeguard their schools in the right way.
But then the whole point of the charity sector is for the charity sector to not be around anymore. Like,
we all know that's a lie.
Yeah. Well, no, but that's the general point that we're all working towards. Otherwise, we wouldn't work in the sectors that we all work in currently.
Yeah.
You know, like the idea of what I do, I know it's youth work, but that's charity based as well. Like,
yeah,
I'm hoping it's a big hope. I'm hoping in like 30, 40 years time, my job's completely and utterly obsolete because disabled people will just be able to go to other youth groups. And, you know, so that's, but the National Autistic Society doesn't seem to have any kind of big long-term plans on the fact that they won't need to exist anymore because autistic people will be was going to say integrated into society. That's so hideous, but you know, like not treated like shit, basically. You know, and we'll actually be able to access things and stuff. And they have the power and the ability to do this. They have the platform for this, but it's just.
But then
And
people,
how many autistic people are on their board?
Yeah.
And that's the question.
And again, one of their patrons.
Didn't they used to have one?
Simon Baron Cohen.
Yeah. Chloe's just made a good point. She was saying that we need to remember that not the local autistic groups and stuff like that are often run by like volunteers and parents and stuff, and they get no funding from NAS either. All of these groups that are around the country doing the local on the ground stuff.
Yep.
That could probably do with a couple of £100 to put on a fun day or something, you know.
Why are they not getting that? I mean, why? It just doesn't make any sense. When they're doing all this fundraising, where exactly is that? Well, we know where the money's going, but
it's going into rich CEO pockets, isn't it? And don't they spend the majority of their money on genetic research? Is that right? Or was that the other one? I don't know.
I wouldn't know if I'm honest.
No,
I wouldn't know. But there's like adult groups that run it out because Autism Hampshire is part of National Autistic Society. And I know that they're really struggling with things, and they do like adult meetup groups and stuff like that. And they just don't have two pennies to rub together, you know, in an area that's of massive deprivation. Where I live is like high deprivation area. So,
yeah, we do have some really good autistic run stuff though, and some really positive kind of like charities and things like that. I mean, we've got things like Chloe was saying, we've got AIM, Autistic Inclusive Meets. That's autistic run, autistic people.
We've got Gecko Community.
Yeah, Gecko Community, which David works for, supporting young neurodivergent people that can't attend school for whatever reason. Well, so we got London.
Yeah.
London
100% autistic led, based obviously in Wales. Brilliant.
London Autism Group charity. Yeah. So, right, what's next? Who have we got next? Are we done, David, or we got more?
Next up, we are talking about Drag Queen Story Hour.
Yay.
So this is mostly happy with a little bit of nonsense, but mostly happy. So ADHD is a neurodivergent drag queen who travels the country reading stories to children. Sounds lovely, doesn't it? Unfortunately, there's a certain group of people who don't think it's lovely and have decided to subject Ada to protests, hate mail, and threats. Despite this, Ada has continued to provide this really important service to children, this inclusiveness and education that you just don't get in the school environment. And they even published a children's book, which is a fantastic book by all accounts. I haven't read it myself. I'm going to assume Katie might have, because Katie
read both of them.
Good on them. Drag Queen Story Hour. You need to check them out if you've not come across them yet. You are going to come across some upsetting stories about bigots and protests, but on the whole, what Ada is doing is very, very wholesome, in my opinion.
And very neurodivergent as well, you know?
Yeah.
So, yeah. And the thing is, I think, you know, the bigots have kind of had the opposite effect, because actually all it's done is spurred them on more and give them more publicity and make them travel more.
Yeah, and Ben added that it took him way too long to realise that the name was ADHD.
ADHD.
Oh dear. Yeah. And all these events were free as well for people to attend. And fantastically accessible. I know there were definitely a lot of autistic young people who went to a lot of the shows and stuff like that, which is really gorgeous. And for as many kind of bigoted white supremacist knobheads as there were hanging around outside all of the shows, there was one video that they put online I think it was outside Reading, because Reading was particularly rough. I think
Yeah.
like a lot of it was rough. Reading was particularly rough. And there was a great big group of people, and they all had trans flags and queer flags and everything else, and they all had a consensual group hug with Ada, which I thought was just absolutely like, I was just, my queer ass sitting there going, oh, so lovely. So as much hate as there is out there, there's a lot of love as well. So, and what she's doing is fantastic. So love it.
Good stuff. And yeah, that moves us on to our final piece of news. Aucademy became a community interest company this year. Right, Aucademy is a CIC, and I said that as if I was going to really elaborate on it, but it's kind of self-explanatory. Does anyone want to explain what the difference is between a CIC and a charity?
Yeah. Basically, it's a community interest company. So it's what it does on the tin. It's a company whose interests lie with its community, or the community it serves, which is the autistic community in this case. But, you know, something that started off as just a YouTube channel or Facebook group with like educating about autistic experience has now officially become a CIC. So that's great. Onwards and upwards.
Aucademy is a legal entity now. So watch out or we'll sue you.
Yeah.
I'm joking. I think.
Also, like the difference between, if I'm going to be really boring, the difference between a community interest company and being a charity is you don't have to have a board of trustees. And there's different funding pots that we can and can't go for, like, just to be really boring.
But it's all really good.
Yeah, but it was fantastic. Absolutely. Still, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, no. You know, Aucademy CIC, watch this space, more to come.
That's
yeah.
it.
And
Ben did say that he probably holds some responsibility for nagging Chloe every week as well.
Yes.
Until it got done. There we go. But it's there, you know, it's great. So, is that it for the news?
That's it. That's the year in whatever that was. Like, we're done. That's the point. I feel like I'm more awkward than usual tonight, to be honest. But
I mean,
it's probably because we nominated you as like the most.
Yeah. You were like, David's the most Christmassy. Make him the host. Like,
horror.
Don't put me in charge of things. I don't know what I'm doing.
Just don't touch that bookshelf and it's fine, David. Because otherwise we're all going to have like anxiety attacks or something.
Now I know how to get out of this. Quickly, fall on me.
Oh no.
All right, what's next?
Am I doing a roundup of books?
You are.
Perfect.
Hey.
Oh my goodness. I will just start with Ada's books, although they didn't come out this year. Oh, one of them might have come out this year. Anyways, if you go onto Drag Queen Story Hour UK, their website, you can get there's 2 beautifully illustrated, really funny, really cute and inclusive books that they've written. The 3 Goats United, which I absolutely loved because one of the goats has he, they pronouns. And I was like, yeah. And It's Not a Problem, which follows the kind of little lovely life of a lesbian couple who are hedgehogs. So that's very wholesome and we enjoy that. And I do read both of those with my young man as well, which is lovely. And just in general, like 2022 has been a fantastic year for autistic authored books. Like a really good year as far as I'm concerned. I mean, shall we start with David's stuff? Better had done, really. So yeah, David has embraced the madness, is what he said this year. And he's not just published one book, he's published his book, A New Normal. And he's also published an anthology of his poetry called Existence. We've had a book from Pete Warmby earlier this year as well, what I want to talk about, and that's to do with how autistic special interests can actually shape us and shape our personality and our lifestyles and stuff. Really good book. Tanya's put, you better not be writing another book, Davey.
It's already written.
He's already written. He's already sent it off to everybody. Standing up for myself, I actually had Evelyn on here on Aucademy at the beginning of the year. They were talking about that book. That was to do with it's kind of aimed at younger people, but might also be helpful for adults anyways, I think. And that's to do with kind of boundary setting, how to kind of understand if someone's being friendly with you or perhaps not so friendly. Some really interesting things in that, and kind of very I can never remember what the acronym stands for. Is it dialectical behavioral therapy, DBT?
Behavioral therapy.
Yeah, kind of stuff based in that and mindfulness. And every time I hear or say mindfulness, I go, ugh, but like in a nice way. I don't know why I get funny about mindfulness, but I do. But that's a brilliant book. That's from Evelyn Welton, who runs Awesome Training and Confident Kids. She's got tons of books, all very, very good. So absolutely worth having a look at. Unmasking Autism by Dr. Devon Price. I've not actually read this personally, but I've got it on my Christmas list. I've know loads of people who've read it have said it's absolutely fantastic. I'm also very excited to get a copy of Lyric Rivera or Lyric Holman's, otherwise known as Neurodivergent Rebel, their book on workplace neurodiversity, kind of inclusion. That's called Workplace Neurodiversity Rising. Yen Perkins has had another really good year this year, bless them, and have written 2 books. The Autism and Neurodiversity Self-Advocacy Handbook, which is to do with developing the skills to determine your own future. So different exercises and stuff in there about creating the confidence in yourself to be able to ask for what you need and your accommodations and stuff like that. They also wrote with Sam Rose, the Awesome Autistic Guide for Trans Teens, which is fantastic, surprising absolutely no one. Both of them are non-binary or trans and autistic, so they know their stuff. It's not just another cis non-autistic person kind of guessing at what's going on based on other people's behaviors. So really, really good guide for that. If you were looking for something that was for kind of young adults or older adults, then Yen also has a book based around that as well, which they wrote with Wen Lawson. I think that came out last year, but this can all be found on Yen's website anyways. I really enjoy Yen Perkins' work and Wen Lawson's work. So also Neuro Beautiful has written their first book as well. What I mean when I say I'm autistic. So that's a little bit about their experiences and uncovering what autistic experience actually is, as opposed to what people write about our experiences having never experienced them themselves. So it's been a fantastic year. There's probably other books out there that I've missed or forgotten, but there's those were my big ones this year. I don't know if anyone's got any others that they've read recently. They want to kind of add.
Will Die on This Hill, because I'm looking forward to reading that.
I'm going to talk about that next, because these are books that are coming out next year that are on pre-order. Okay. So yeah, absolutely. So if we can go on to that one. Aha! I Will Die on This Hill was there, definitely. I spoke to Megan Ashburn and Jules Edwards on Aucademy a couple of months ago. I was someone's put about Chloe Haddon's book as well. That is a very good point. Did that come out this year? Let me talk about coming in 2023, and then we'll talk about Chloe Haddon's book maybe. Both of them came on Aucademy a couple of months ago. I was very fortunate to get a pre-read version of the book. It was fantastic. It's got people like Tiffany Hammond from Fidgets and Fries. obviously Jules and Megan themselves, so which would otherwise known as autistic typing and not an autism mum. They've got Danny with words, various our Kieran's on there. Our Kieran. Kieran Rose has got a chapter in there as well. So, and it's just about the relationship that could happen between what would be considered autism parents and autistic people and autistic parents, and about how actually, if we shift through all of the bullshit, what we actually all want is for autistic children to grow up and be happy and lived fulfilled lives in whatever manner that may look like. So there was a lot of conversation about being non-speaking. There was definitely a lot of intersectional stuff in there, especially about being Indigenous or a person of colour, disabled, physically disabled, and being queer as well. So fantastic book. And I've got that on pre-order. Although I've read it 3 times already, I've got it on pre-order. So I've got a hard copy of that. Whilst we're talking about Tiffany Hammond, she has got a book that's coming out next year as well. These are all early next year as well, so just in time for the new year. A Day with No Words, which is about, I believe it's her youngest son. In fact, both of her sons might use AAC actually. So it's about kind of his life and what his day-to-day looks like as a non-speaking Black autistic child. So I'm really super excited about that. That's a children's book. And Pete Warmby again has got another book out next year called Untypical: How the World Isn't Built for Autistic People and What We Should All Be Doing About It. So yeah, really, that's a really good start to the autistic literature of next year, hopefully. I've also forgot to also watch out for my book next year, 50 Shades of Tato. Oh dear. Also, I forgot to put Chloe Hayden's book on there, who is probably most famous for playing Quinny in Heartbreak High, who was an autistic character. Chloe herself is autistic, so it's fantastic, and her book is Different, Not Less. All of these books can be purchased on Amazon or have a look through people's websites specifically. I know Amazon is the big baddie. I appreciate that. However, these people are all autistic, disabled, queer, people of colour, like trying to deal with the day-to-day bullshit that they've all got to deal with, as well as being able to jump through the hoops of publishers. And the expense of publishers is definitely something to be spoken about. Ada HD has just said, I wish I knew you were doing this. My new children's book about pride is out in February. LGBT History Month. Excellent. What's the name of it, Ada? Have we got a name? Or is it called Pride? So that's excellent. Fantastic. I've totally lost what I was talking about now. Yeah, so I think I know that Tiffany's had quite a few things. I know David has as well, about why have you chosen Amazon? Why have you chosen Amazon? Oh, it's a terrible thing. It's a terrible thing. We're marginalised people. If we've got to publish somewhere that isn't appreciated and is terrible for various reasons, then that's the way we're going to publish it, because our voices need to be heard. And that's it. That's me rant on my soapbox over. Buy the books.
Yeah. And just kind of like, I haven't announced the name yet, but very excited to reveal it. So that's great.
Maybe we could have Ada on in January or February if we've got space, and they could talk about their new book.
That would be great, I think. We'll get our people to talk to your people, Ada.
Don't ring us, we'll ring you.
Ring? What? Ring? We've got it. What?
No, we won't. We will text you. We'll text us back quickly.
Oh dear. But yeah.
It's been a real good year for books, and more good years coming for books. I'm hoping my next book will come out late next year, because I've already written it.
we keep saying, we know when David's like on a monotropic focus, we're like, David, you're not writing another book, are you? Spoons, save the spoons.
Month,
It's kind of like a running joke with us.
Yeah, Ben's right. One per month. One per month. That's what I'm limiting myself to anyway.
I can't even say I wish I had the writing thing, because can you imagine? I don't actually. I'd never stop, would I, with all the rants and stuff that I go on about all the things. Like, I wish I didn't have I have the type of ADHD which makes it impossible for me to think in a straight line. So, but yeah, it's a good job that I can't sit there and write a book. Otherwise, I'd probably be on book 20. But yeah, anyway, books. So yeah, it's been a great, and you mentioned the person off Heartbreak High as well. So what do we think about, because we were going to cover this anyway briefly, but media representation this year?
Yeah, absolutely. Media representation this year. And I thought the best place to start would be if Priscilla talks to us about one that I know they really want to talk about, which is The Darkest Path of the Night.
Yeah, so I saw that at the Kiln Theatre this year. I mean, I was looking at the reviews and it got kind of mixed reviews, so that was a bit disappointing. But from my perspective, it was really, like, I was really moved by this play. It was a world premiere at the Kiln Theatre. It was like running from July to August, just to give you some context. But basically, it was about this family growing up in Leeds, and it was set mostly during the 1980s, but it kind of went to present day and as well. And it was like kind of started in present day and then went back. But I just thought it was such a nuanced portrayal of neurodivergence particularly in a Black family, and it didn't try to show, like, because I feel like with portrayals, they still seem to go in a sort of very binary fashion of either we need to celebrate it and it's really like superhero kind of good thing, or we need to say it's this tragic thing that's real issue and like we wish that we could fix it kind of thing. But I felt like it really handled the sort of difficulty of being a parent in that time, and maybe not knowing how to deal with it, especially like with the kind of male conditioning as well, and the fact that the father was having difficulty with dealing with the son, thinking that him being a Black boy, he's going to get into trouble with his autistic behavior, and he wanted to look out for him, and so there's a lot of nuance in that, and the sort of fear of how his son is going to be treated, and in the way the family deal with the son, and the way that, but there's also moments of joy and moments of love. And you can see how the mum really actually looks after him and really thinks that he's a really, like, is someone that should be valued. And like they have these moments where they're dancing to like, old, I can't remember what they were listening to. It might have been, like Stevie Wonder and things like that. And there's like real joy. So it's not all sort of like doom and gloom. It's also, there's this like moments of family intimacy and fun. And I love that, because I think we need to have more autistic joy representation. And I could go on about it forever, but like the sister as well, I thought they got the tics so well. So the sister, she comes on and she's like shaking her leg, and she's just like, and she's like talking 9 to a dozen, and they're trying to get a word in, and you can see her sort of nervous excitement and the way she sort of stands up for her brother, and it's like, but also her guilt, because sometimes she'll feel like he's cramping his style, and she'll want to like, and she did a thing in the play which was she'd let him kind of go out, and he'd ended up being like wandering the streets and being, actually, it was really, that's the really tragic part, he ended up being sectioned. This is kind of a spoiler, but so that it goes through such a journey with the relationships. I mean, I could go on forever, but yeah, to sum it up, I think it was just a really beautiful portrayal of a family dealing with like so many social pressures, and just, but also love for the love that was in the family was so palpable, and so sort of getting them through that, getting through the difficulties. And yeah, there's just so much in there that it was like, it was a lot. I was moved by it. I think I was brought to tears a couple of times, just because it's like the first time, one of the first times I've seen such a good portrayal of Black neurodivergent people on, so yeah. Sorry, I went on and on about it.
No, that's fine.
It
It's
sounds
nice
fantastic.
to see that. It's nice to see that when things are just realistic. Do you know what I mean? Because I think there's this stereotype that if you're autistic and you kind of like follow the neurodiversity paradigm, you just completely ignore any of the difficulties or hard things. And that's not the case. It's not one extreme or other. It's just, it's nice to see that there's something that's just kind of, that's how it was, the good, the bad, and the bits in between.
Yeah, and it's just the reality of it. It's the reality as well of when, because they had a social worker in the play, and I love the sort of the way they dealt with that as well, because it's then talking about, well, how do institutions get involved, and and how they can make it worse, but then also how people within those institutions can be very well intentioned. So, at first you really don't like the social worker, but then you actually see she really is trying, but she's working against such a system that is like not conducive to getting anything done. It just makes things worse, or it just says, well, they're Black people, they can't look after their son, he should stay in the hospital, he should be in a foster family, or things like that, when there's individuals who really are at the same time wanting to help. But so it was just so, like, I thought that was such a good example of like how systems it's the complicated nature of it, the fact that the systems work against you, but then there's people within it that could really do want to help at the same time.
Yeah. Is it running anymore? It's called The Darkest Part of the Night.
No, it's not, unfortunately. I really hope they bring it back. I was thinking it could actually make a good TV series as well, to be honest, because like there was so much in that, so much exploration of different issues, or the police, getting sectioned and all of this stuff. I think there was so much that could have been explored, and in a way, I think that was the mixed reviews, was that it was trying to do too much in like such a little time. And so I think if it had been brought out and actually into a TV series, they could have even explored it further. But I hope it's kind of taken up again. I hope it has another run, because it really deserves to be seen by more people. I mean, honestly, I can't think of another example where I've seen such a sort of nuanced portrayal, really.
Hopefully they might make it into a TV series then. Hopefully.
I'd hope so. Yeah.
We could definitely replace
tweet the writer or something, or email the writer. Please.
Yeah, we could definitely replace some of the other autistic TV series. But saying that though, is it me, or is anybody noticing that kind of the portrayal of autistic people is kind of changing a little bit? It's coming along slowly. So like, who have we had? I mean, we spoke about, I can't remember her name, from Heartbreak High.
Chloe Haddon.
Yeah, that's the one. Sorry, the meds are wearing off. But yeah, so we spoke about Chloe Haddon in Heartbreak High, who is an actually autistic person, and I thought that was done really, really well.
I'm yet to watch it yet, but do you want to give a brief description of Heartbreak High for anyone who's not seen it?
I have seen it. I can't. No.
I've seen it. Sorry, Tanya, have I come over you?
No. You do it. I was just about to say you do it, because I can't think straight.
Right. Okay. Well, I'll see what I can remember. The show's very good. Anyways, like I enjoyed the show. That's my kind of thing. It kind of almost feels like if anyone's seen Sex Education, which again is also like a big show of mine as well. It kind of feels like the Australian version of that. I know that obviously this is actually a remake of an older series anyways, based in Australia. I appreciate that. But just to give you a bit of an idea of what the kind of general feel of the show is, it kind of feels quite young, which, is nice, I think. And there's a lot of queer characters in it as well, which is obviously like why I'm going to watch it, because I'm just into it. And I think with the queerness and with Quinny being autistic, because she is both, she's autistic and I think she's a lesbian, or she's definitely queer, bisexual, pan, something like that. And she has a relationship with another girl. It's not the same as every other autistic story and every queer story. It's not full of trauma and angst and, oh, should I be this and should I be that, and I should be masking and I should be this, that, and everything else.
It
But it
wasn't
does-
patronising. It just
No,
wasn't
it wasn't
patronising at
patronising.
all. And it wasn't going for the whole victim sort of narrative being, or people helping them out or anything like that. It was very much, I felt, showing sort of self-advocacy and self-advocating and things like that, which I felt was important.
And I
Yeah,
loved
and
it because
Sorry, Katie.
she had this really lovely non-binary friend, and they were really lovely with her. And because at that point where you come into the series, they've clearly been friends with each other for quite a few years through school. So they've kind of come into their queerness with each other and come into her neurodivergence with each other as well. And the care and the love there is really lovely. And I remember one scene where they're putting, I think another character is putting fake eyelashes onto Quinny, the autistic character, and she has about 2 seconds of going, "Oh, this is all right, this is all right," and then she's like, "Oh, get these things off my face." No, I have, you know, experiences of mascara in the past and stuff like that, and I'm just like, yes, I completely and utterly understand that. There's a part where she goes non-speaking. That it's just, I just think it's well done. The only thing I would say about it is it's yet another white autistic person. It would be nice if there was a bit more representation of other people in the autistic community. But as a stepping stone, like you were saying, Tanya, we're going from the Rain Mans and the Sheldon Coopers and the whatever the lad's name from Atypical is and all that nonsense, because obviously it only affects white middle class boys who are highly intelligent, and therefore they're allowed to be annoying and everything else because they're highly intelligent and therefore useful.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. And we've had we can't talk about like autistic representation either without really talking about Wednesday, can we? Even though like we know that they aren't like,
this is more of a autistic coded character than a, and by autistic coded I mean I see a lot of characters in Wednesday who are some flavor of neurodivergent. You know, you've got all the students at Nevermore who to me very much represent the neurodivergent community, and then you've got the people outside of Nevermore who are very much like, we don't like those weirdos. Let's just keep them over there, out of the way. Which I think perhaps that's why so many people in the autistic community enjoyed Wednesday, because whether they realized it or not, they were the heroes in their own story. You know, the students of Nevermore, you know, things are going horribly wrong, and it's the students at Nevermore who go, do you know what? No one's doing anything about this really, except for that one police officer. Let's just do this ourselves because no one's going to do it for us. And obviously Wednesday very much is involved in solving some of the issues. I'm trying not to give too many spoilers here. And it does get her into trouble. I really relate to Wednesday's character. You know, that kind of very... How would you... I don't even really know how to explain Wednesday as a character. It's very Addams Family, but also that it's like her character is far more human, I think, than...
They've definitely humanized her from the original character by Christina Ricci.
Yeah.
Because you can see she's trying to sort of grapple with feelings, you know, and emotions, and sort of having some empathy for people rather than just sort of being like, I'm indifferent to everything.
Yeah.
But then also I still do like the sort of sarcastic one-liners as well. The deadpan one-liners are fun.
Wednesday was definitely alexithymic, I would say.
Yeah.
Wasn't there a line where she said something to a guy? She completely missed all the hints that he was trying to like date her or into her, and then she was like,
which
it's
is so
not my
autistic.
fault, I can't decode your emotional language.
Yeah, exactly. Just tell me, like, what do you want? Like,
Yeah,
this
so
is not a priority right now. And I just so related to that. Like,
yeah,
this is the important thing.
and she was very
Why are you getting
monotropic.
upset?
And that's the thing as well. She was very monotropic. So that was another thing that was screamed autistic to me.
Yeah, obsessive
Because
with
even
like
though-
one thing. Or,
yeah. Even though she got all this other stuff going on, she was like, no, that's what, and nothing else was. Yeah, so it was just really, really autistic coded, I think. It's not my fault I can't interpret your emotional Morse code. That's pretty much me every day. I don't know about anybody else.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ben also adds that he loves her sass.
Yeah.
The sarcastic put downs. Yeah.
Have we had any more?
Can I add something else to Wednesday? Is that okay?
Yeah.
I just feel like, to add to what David was saying about, the outcasts, and I think they are referred to as outcasts quite a lot in the program.
Yeah.
I just feel like it's a very telling story on kind of what in the US would be called, special education, and institutionalization of like disabled people, and then even with I am terrible with character.
I didn't even think about that, but it's so obvious.
Yeah. And also even within the groups, they don't they're outcasts within the
hierarchies.
And Wednesday is very much that. But I also believe the werewolf young lady that she shares her dorm with, whose name has completely gone.
Is it? Yeah.
So, and then obviously she hasn't. It's a slight spoiler, sorry. She hasn't got like she hasn't wolfed out yet. She hasn't, become a werewolf yet. And it's about how she's kind of patronized by a mum, and so even though they're part of the same, what could be a neurodivergence, she's not doing it correctly.
That was the point I wanted to make. Like, there is this attitude of, if you take it as an allegory for disability, the outcasts within the outcasts are the disabled people who aren't doing disability the way that people want them to do disability. And I think that's another reason why a lot of people in our community perhaps enjoyed it, because whether we care to admit it or not, in our community, we still have this correct way of being autistic, this correct way of being disabled, that a lot of people fall foul of, and I think it, for me, I could see a lot of parallels between sort of Wednesday's character and the sort of idea of neuroqueerness that I have in my head. And we all know how much I love neuroqueer theory, but that very unapologetic, I don't care if I'm doing this the way you want me to do it, I'm going to do it the way that works for me.
Yeah, that's what I like about her. She's kind of pretty unapologetic about it. And I think that's what other characters really admire about her. Like, you don't care what other people think. But at the same time, it's like, I think there's part of her that does care. But it's the fact that she will just do stuff regardless. And it's not going to, like, bow down to, like, how things should be done. That's what I think. I think that's what's likable about her.
And I think it's interesting that that the only way that she's been able to explore that kind of intimacy with others, relationships with others, emotions, whatever, is around other people who are like her. And I would say that that's pretty much a parallel to my experiences, definitely, of autistic community and disabled community. So
double empathy in there. Yeah. So have we had any more? We had any more decent media representation this year? I can't think of anything. Just the usual.
If anyone can think of some good representation, throw it in the comments, because we always loved. I have been complaining to people recently that I can't find anything good to watch. So if you've got a show that you think has good autistic vibes to it, let me know, because I want to watch it.
That's what we're going to be doing over Christmas, isn't it, David? Instead of writing another book.
No, I'll do
like every TV series I can point out someone who's probably an NC character. I feel like I do that with everything I watch these days.
Yeah, I can remember watching Wednesday thinking, they've got to know. They must know.
Yeah,
Surely they know.
it seems so. It's like sex education. I just think they might. Yeah, it must be.
Yeah,
it must be a
I
thing
mean,
in the head.
Tim Burton's autistic anyway, isn't he? Just quite a well-known.
I can imagine that.
Yeah, I thought it was.
I don't know that to be 100% accurate, but that is, I'm not sitting here going,
I've also felt like, sorry to go on about Wednesday, but I also felt the interaction with Enid and Wednesday was kind of like, for me, it was like the battle between ADHD and autistic traits and how they can clash. That's what it felt like to me so much. The way it was like she came in, it's like, oh my God, there's color. And it's like, it was like, oh my God, this is like ADHD versus autism. So badly.
Okay, so according to Google, Tim Burton self-IDs.
As autistic.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah, I could see that. I mean, the fact that Helen Bonham Carter and him have got like separate houses or adjoining houses or something, isn't it?
I mean, they're not, but that sounds like the best relationship ever.
Yeah, it does. It sounds great.
Just joins.
There's times when I'm like in this small flat with my husband, I'm like, I need another house.
Also, just to throw this out there, anyone who wants to claim that self-ID isn't valid, take it up with Tim Burton.
Yeah. That's when we can keep Tim Burton. We don't mind.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So, I think we should probably do tips and advice for Christmas next, and then we can round it out nicely with our 12 days of Christmas statistics. And then
what do you mean, hour, David? Hour? You're doing the singing.
No, I'm not singing.
Can we just awkwardly talk? But we did it last year, so I feel like we've got to do it this year. So
one way or another, you're going to hear 12 days of statistics. But before we get on to that, tips and advice for Christmas. So there is a disclaimer here. Bobby was going to come on and do tips and advice for surviving the holidays. Now, unfortunately, Bobby had some internet issues and was unable to make it, but sent over their slides. Problem is, we don't know what was going to be said with those slides. So we're going to embrace the chaos, because that's what we love to do, and just kind of wing it. So, happy holidays. Oh, I guess we're done. See you.
I hope Bobby's not put anything too difficult in there. What's next, Ben? Is it happy holidays for everyone?
No.
It is now. I've got like some autonomy though. You know, that I can just like shut my door with the kids, not do the visiting. Like now I've got that autonomy. It's just, it's great.
Yeah.
You guys.
You don't have to go to anybody else's timetable, do you? Hopefully.
No, it's great.
So the demands, but part of it is in the beginning, it is because we don't really like the transitions. It is difficult in the beginning because it is switching to going from probably quite structured to not being.
Yeah.
There is a lot of changes.
Yeah.
I think for me, there's just the change in the weather and the change in routine and the kind of expectations around Christmas, which change every year because obviously we've got little man now. So, and every year that will change because his understanding of Christmas will change. So everything's just, I'm excited, but I'm, I don't know, exhausted by it already, if I'm honest.
Well, it puts additional pressure on, isn't there? There's the pressure of expectation, whereas when they're younger, they don't realise.
Yeah.
There isn't much the outside influences.
Ben just was saying that his brothers and their partners at Ben's house because like the family Christmas thing, and it really increases his anxiety, like having people in his space. Yeah. I've got a bit of a controversial one as well that I don't tell my kids about Santa at all. We don't do the Santa thing at all because I think, why would you lie to them just to disappoint them? So that's always an interesting one to navigate with a 5-year-old. Not so much the older one. He figured it out really, really quick. But yeah, that's all, you know. And also,
Yeah,
you
I wish I'd never gone down that line with it. But that was what,
yeah,
and particularly in school, that was what was pushed. But we sort of did it where there was like the stocking, and that was from Santa, but the rest wasn't. But
yeah.
having to then the grief when they found out Santa didn't exist was awful, and I just wish I'd never gone down that, because it
Yeah.
is you've lied to them. Yeah, I can see why people wouldn't do that.
Yeah. It was never really a conscious choice for me, really. It just didn't make sense to make up this big elaborate lie about this old dude that somehow gets in. Do you know what I mean? There's just so many spoons to keep that up.
But I didn't realize how much terror it actually caused. The fact that my daughter would hang the stocking outside the door because the idea of some stranger coming into the house, putting presents in a bedroom, was just plain awful. And it was the fact that Santa knew the size of her socks every year. It was just plain creepy. It was just
It is pretty creepy.
It is creepy.
It's a bit like Predator vibes.
yeah, and go and sit on Santa's knee, a total stranger.
Yeah,
I mean,
it's like,
Because that's normal. Just let them break into your bedroom at night. That's totally normal.
yeah, and Santa's watching you to see if you're good. I mean, just no.
I mean, it's a bit Catholic priest vibey.
Oh, it's a bit Big Brother, really. It's just. No.
I've got to be honest. The thought of a big bearded man coming up to me and being like, "David, you've been a very naughty boy," it just sets me on edge.
Does it set you on edge, David?
Not really a comforting thought, is it?
It's an unsettling thought.
Somebody else posted just a minute ago as well. Elf on the Shelf. Yeah, because I absolutely need other things to be doing of an evening by the time I've got my 2 PDAs to sleep. That's
Elf on the Shelf. It's not just for Christmas. It's a 10-year commitment. What?
You've got to think of something new every night. Like, who does that? I mean,
yeah, and then you've got to keep it up every year.
Googling Elf on the Shelf ideas.
What is Elf on the Shelf?
Oh, wow. So it's a new thing that they just came up with, which is like this naughty elf character that every night on the Advent, when kids go to bed, he's done something naughty. So they might like put flour on the floor with like some elfy footprints, or you know, you've got to think of something new for him to do every night, and it's just hard.
That would make me anxious if I was leaving stuff like dirty on the floor. I'd want to clean it up.
For real.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Also, like, what is it teaching children? Oh, it's so funny that he's poured cereal everywhere.
Yeah. Please don't do this, with a note saying, please don't do this. Makes me anxious.
Entertainment purposes for one time only.
And the same with the Santa thing about the big bearded bloke asking if you've been a good girl or a good boy or a good person. Like, honestly, like, can you imagine? I mean, I wouldn't sleep well, even knowing that Elf on the Shelf was not real, thinking that there were like little elves running around my house in the night.
Also, my autistic brain would be like, define good. What do you mean? Are you talking about a Christian version of good, or what are we talking about here?
Yeah, my PDA ass is like, well, I behaved, badly still behaving. Anyway,
it's like presence dependent on whether you're good or bad. But what happened? It's just what was it? Oh, it's awful.
Also, you're a child. You're gonna do naughty things.
What if you can't afford the present? So then you think,
like, how do we normalize? How do we normalize like ruling our children through fear? What is that about?
Yeah.
Social control.
Yeah.
Capitalism.
Like, honestly, I think, you know, what I keep seeing this like kind of meme on social media about, you know, if you have well-behaved children because of fear, that's not something to be proud of. And it is all that, isn't it? Like, you're scared you're not going to get any presents, or, you know. But yeah,
behaviorism in action, isn't it, really?
Yeah, that's true. Right.
Yeah.
What we got
modification. It's not good.
Yeah. Holiday stress. Well, I think we just covered a lot of that. Holiday stress. Well, there is the financial stresses, isn't there? And then there's the expectations that you're supposed to see all this family, etc., etc. We don't just know.
It's the
We'll also
expectation
say-
to be happy as well, with a bunch of people that ordinarily you spend all year avoiding.
Yeah, I mean,
Is it us, Victoria? Is that we?
That's it. I'm avoiding you now.
this leads neatly into my new holiday tradition, which I'm starting now that my son's been born. And the tradition is that everyone just leaves me alone to enjoy the holidays with my child.
Yes.
Like,
Yeah.
That's what I do.
like, if I want to do something, I will do it. If my child wants to do something, we'll have a crack at it. But I am not going to be doing everyone's little demands throughout ever, because I don't do people telling me what to do. And that's one of the most stressful things about Christmas is you have to go see this family, you have to go see that friend, you have to go do this, that, and the other. It's like, can I just not enjoy the holidays, please? Like, why has everything got to be something you have to do?
Yeah, and the expectation of presents. I don't know how you feel about it, but I get really stressed about that.
I have a rule. I don't. If people are buying me presents, they have to tell me that they're doing it, and ideally tell me what they're getting me, because I don't like the whole surprise thing where I then
I can't disguise my reactions either. Like, I can't pretend I like something if I don't. I'm so obvious. It's like, oh, thanks,
it's not that for me. It's being able to. Yeah, so for me, when I'm receiving presents, it's really difficult because I don't know if I can deal with the surprise, but also produce the expectation of the response that the other person was expecting.
I hate that.
It just puts me in this really, I can remember my ex brought me flowers home from work one day, and I opened the door and they were stood there with these flowers, and they were like, there you go. And I literally ran off into the other room and didn't come out for about half an hour. Because it's the expectation. It's overwhelming, isn't it? It's a surprise. Like they're expecting some kind of really flowery PDA kind of response, and it's just difficult. Yeah, I hate it. But so with my children, what we do is, so we don't do Santa. It sounds really miserable. It's not, but we don't do Santa. But they both have lists, like on the cabinet, that they can write things that they might have seen and they might like, but literally I just sit there on the internet and let them pick what they want. I mean, my youngest specialist thing is dinosaurs, so he literally, because it's Christmas, has cleared out the entirety of the figures from the new Jurassic World thing, so we just let them pick. But what else?
I used to have a Walking with Dinosaurs poster in my bedroom when I was a kid.
Oh, but he's PDA, so he literally sits you down and gives you like oral exams about what dinosaurs called which, and is it what does it eat meat or not, and when did it live? And I'm like,
I love that.
You're 5.
Like me and plants now.
Yeah. But yeah, holiday stress. Yeah, it's really difficult, isn't it? Because I know that I'm kind of really out there with my personality, and if I don't want to do something, I'll just say no. So no, I'm not doing that. No, I haven't got spoons. But I realise that not everybody can do that, can they? Like some people have to do the family expectation, especially if they rely on them for childcare or things like that. Yeah, it's really difficult. But yeah, so holiday stress, should we say? So it does include all the religions, but yeah, it's generally a holiday around this time of year. But yeah,
and Ben says him retreating from the family to build his Lego Groot for Christmas this year.
You got a Lego Groot?
That is a good option. Like I need a
Lego Groot is.
Oh,
can I just also put, because the holiday stress on women or main caregivers is mega compared to other people. Like the mental load of mums, women, the matriarch in the family, however you want to put it, is usually quite intense throughout the year, and then winter just at the time where everything's a bit more bleak outside anyways, and everything becomes 9 million times harder to do. They're just going to kind of ramp that up a bit for people. I do kind of notice that with kind of mental load of women and mums especially, just already kind of trying to keep things together throughout the year. And then I'm talking about Christmas, but it could be any holidays, of course, but I celebrate Christmas, so it's just
I just kind of imagine the stress of trying to cook for so many people. Like, just to try and cook for myself is hard enough.
Yes.
I think it's
Absolutely.
not just preparation for the actual day. I mean, with children things, it's the lead up. There's like all the plays, all the different things, and it's just
the school things.
And the navigating the anxiety and the stress. And it used to be horrendous because you knew my children didn't want to be there. I mean, my son sat with his foot in his mouth for the whole of the performance. It's just hated it. But you had to because it was the expectation.
Yeah, the things that you've got to remember, and it's wild. And then obviously, like, my younger ones, when they're having like non-uniform day and Christmas jumper day and performance day, the whole routine's gone out of the window. I mean, we had an awful day because they'd cancelled the forest school day, which always happens on a Wednesday without, for this Christmas performance. So you can imagine. And then odd sock day. What's that about? What sort of autistic person? I'm going to wear odd socks.
But it's also the things that are considered fun are not. They're a nightmare. There's things like the pantomime, and it's like, that is hell. And then there was the things like the whole school having a Christmas dinner, but with child has eating issues, and it's just, or eating differences. It's actually a total nightmare.
I was just going to add that, I want to protest now the holiday stress by refusing to do anything but sit with my foot in my mouth. The problem is I'm hypermobile, so if I did that, I would need to go to the emergency department and be put back together.
And then there was my other child who walked across the stage, spent the entire time shaking her head at me and just saying no, refusing to sing, and then asked, why didn't you like it? Why didn't she just like, I didn't like the parents.
Do you know one thing that is brilliant though, especially if you are a parent and you have autistic children, because obviously autistic adults don't have needs, do we? We can't say, no, we can't do that. That's going to be too much or too busy. But when you are a parent, children are the best excuse. Nobody can argue with it. It's great. Especially when your children are neurodivergent as well, because you're like, I'd love to come over, Grandma, but, there's lots of antiques and things there, and I think you might find it overwhelming and there's too many people. Got away with that. So what have we got now? Oh, we just got another picture. Oh, yeah, parties and stuff. Yeah, it's just a no from me. It's a no from me. But if you do have to do these gatherings, what I would say is make sure that you have saved up plenty of spoons prior to go in. Have an exit strategy. So, if it's, if you make something up that you've got to be back for, so you can only stay for a limited amount of time, and then make sure you've got the next day to get over the social hangover. That was
someone in the Aucademy social a couple of weeks ago gave a really good piece of advice, which is always be the second person to leave.
Yeah.
So, it's not obvious you've been waiting to leave, but as soon as that first person has broken the ice, just go for it. Like, get out of there.
Decided it was a new job opportunity for someone to be the professional first person to leave.
Like
yeah, I actually offered to do that internationally as well, didn't I? If you pay me, I will come to wherever and be the first person to leave the party, and I will do it as dramatically as you like.
Yeah. And you're like a large person, like you're not just creeping out. You are a large, dyspraxic person?
I'm all the neurodivergent. Like,
falling out of the room.
All the colours of the rainbow.
I'll have like a full-on like diva temper tantrum, trip over everything, take out the door,
Knock someone's drink.
Knock over the
By
bookshelf.
the time I am done leaving, no one will care if you go because no one else is going to want to be there.
Take the bookshelf, David. That will clear the party straight away. The bookshelf.
Yeah, no, I'll throw the bookcase across the room. Like, I mean, it'll break me doing it because I'm very hypermobile. But yeah, I can throw a bookcase across the room before leaving if you want. Like, no one's going to be caring if you've left after I'm done. Like,
Yeah. Oh, I have a question. Who here is going to actually be having Christmas dinner on Christmas Day? Because I know I won't.
so
One will be having sandwiches, one will be having chicken nuggets, and I might treat myself to something that I would like to eat.
I do a thing on Christmas Day every year, which is that we take the church hall that I live on the grounds of because my mother is a priest. I think I've said this on enough lives now that everyone knows. And we feed people on Christmas Day, like a proper Christmas dinner. And we do it for free, but it does mean that my Christmas Day isn't actually a day off. What I do is feed like 50 people.
Yeah.
I'm having a pot noodle.
Pot noodle.
Are you going for a
Oh, yeah.
Christmas flavour though? Are you going for like pigs in blankets flavour or something, Victoria?
Absolutely.
Or just standard old chicken and mushroom?
Oh no, it has to be chicken and mushroom.
Yes.
It's got to be chicken and mushroom. Yeah. What we got on the next slide, Ben? It's like slide bingo. Self-care.
Ben said Christmas dinner in a can.
Oh.
That's definitely not self-care.
It's definitely not self-care. Priscilla, full Christmas meal at your parents'. Ben, full roast dinner.
I don't have to cook anything because I would burn it. And it would not be a good Christmas.
Yeah, I would forget stuff. Yeah,
I would do something bad. I know.
The neurodivergent struggle of knowing how to put something in the oven but still having not mastered remembering that you are using the oven.
Take it out. Get really impatient, take it out too early, and then leave it in for too long and turn the temperature up. That's me.
Yes. Yes. It's me.
Or ignore the alarm.
I'm just like, oh my God, it would have been good if it hadn't been burnt. It would have been so good.
Yeah.
It's cooked on the outside, but it's a bit frozen in the middle. Totally fine. Totally fine. Just keep eating it. It's fine.
In my head, I would be such a great cook if I had the patience and time management skills.
Yes,
I can put flavors together, but it's just everything else.
This is the thing for me is if I mean it costs me like a week's worth of spoons, but I can cook a good meal. But the amount of effort I have to go to get everything to go to plan is just not worth it for the food that you get. Because I can cook a tasty meal, but it is not tasty enough to justify the energy that goes into actually doing the thing.
You see, I'm different. So I'm a really good cook, if I do say so myself. So occasionally, if I've got the spoons, I want to hyper focus on like making a menu and doing the cooking thing, but I'm in there all day. Like, do not pass go, do not speak to me, get out my kitchen. But I can really hyper focus on it and produce a really good meal. But the thing is, after I've had the meal, I'm done. I'm like falling asleep. I'm like, that's all the spoons gone for the whole holidays now. But because like obviously, you know, there's me and my children at home and we eat different things. I mean, it's almost like Pinky and Brain in my house. What do you want to eat tonight, boys? Same thing we do every night, Mum, you know? Chicken.
Yeah. Easier.
But yeah.
So I'm stressful with it. But also,
No. I was going to say, should we follow the slides? Because we're supposed to be talking about self-care, aren't we?
Yeah, I was about to say this. We probably ought to talk about some actual. We did say we were going to embrace the chaos, but we should probably actually talk about self-care whilst it's on the screen. So what's self-care like? Anyone want to weigh in here? For me, self-care looks like writing 3 books.
Energy drink.
Oh, I'm still trying to edit a chapter. I'm so in awe of your skills, David.
It's self-care. What's self-care? Finding ways to say no if you can.
Boundaries.
Finding ways to say no if you can. Boundaries. Boundary phrases are really good for that. So Google some boundary phrases. I love a good boundary phrase. It's not feeling obliged to do anything. If you can't, trying to get rid of that kind of obligation if you can.
Getting away from the hype of Christmas, stop looking sort of at the social media and things' portrayal of it, and take away the pressure of it.
For me, realistically, self-care is making space to just exist for a moment without having to be anywhere or do anything.
Yeah,
it's supposed to be a holiday. It's supposed to be a holiday. And I know some of us are very lucky and get a lot of time off, and some of us not so much. But yeah, you have to actually enjoy it.
Yeah.
And it's realizing that enjoyment and enjoyment is different for every person.
Yeah.
And if it's supposed to be enjoyable with the food, then that includes whatever you want to eat and do on that day. And it's just embracing those differences.
Yeah.
For me,
sorry, Priscilla, go on.
I was just going to say, because I'm like such a film nerd, self-care for me is like compiling a list of all the classic films I haven't got around to watching and being like, this is what I'm going to do this Christmas.
You have that time
or
to
catching up or like
explore
binging on a TV series or something.
You see, for me, it's not so much a Christmas thing, but me and my friend JT, every New Year's, he comes down a couple of days before New Year's Eve, because we have like a little bit of a hangout on New Year's Eve itself. He comes down and stays with me for a couple of days before, and we have like set movie marathons that we do. And like we might watch the entire collection of Resident Evil, or we've got our films that make you go, or I mean, just any sort of series of films, really.
Yeah.
As Bobby says, binge watching films and music is self-care for them. So I mean, binge watching films is a big one for me.
Yeah, I just try and reframe it, really. Instead of like getting caught up in other people's chaos that should be Christmas hype and stuff like that, I actually try and see it as an opportunity to just pull away the demands for an extended period of time and live in a really low arousal way, which is, because we're all PDAs in my house. So so for me, it's an opportunity to just shut the door and just really live very authentically and just go, do you know what? We're going to have no demands for a real good chunk of time before we have to go back to January, where we have to be adhering to demands and things like that. So that's really nice.
But I mean, for me, like, not to be all guy with the new baby, but for me, self-care this year is going to be just enjoying like my child's first Christmas and New Year, like actually taking the time to enjoy that experience and not necessarily do it the way that everyone tells me I have to do it.
And there's so many different ways you could be doing it, isn't there? Like, I think that's what sort of stresses me out about parenthood, is there's so many different ways you could be doing something, but I think it's really down to what you think is right in the moment.
It's stepping away from the pressures and all the media portrayals and what you're supposed to do. And there's all this big hype about your child's first Christmas when they don't actually know. It's just like, save your money.
It could be the like, the least stressful, because they haven't sort of worked out what, like adverts and marketing and what they should like.
It's just another day, isn't it? The best thing about it for me really is that we just get time off from demands. That's it.
And I think it's keeping that in perspective. It's a day.
Yeah. I think going out for walks as well, because I find it can get a bit claustrophobic as well sometimes, and sometimes I just need to go out and get some fresh air. Basically,
if you've got family around, then especially. I mean, I'm really fortunate, because mine's just my bubble. But if you do have family around, then making sure that you've got that space to just get away, that nobody can invade, is really important. Because if you've got family around, you're going to be masking an awful lot of the time, aren't you? Like Ben's just said, he would say that gaming is self-care for him, but then he thinks he can get equally angry and frustrated when he plays online. Yeah, that's true. What's
What
next?
I like to do
Okay.
with gaming, just for a second, is pick a game where you're not playing it online. Because I like my online RPGs now. I play them almost exclusively. But if I'm really trying to relax through gaming, I'll pick something story driven that is not online, so I don't have to deal with other people's nonsense.
Other people's nonsense does cause most of So what we got?
That's a theme tonight, isn't it? Other people's nonsense.
Well, yeah, I think it's a film.
Yeah.
So
So this is not like this is not just tips for teachers and staff in schools. I think this is kind of like overarching, isn't it? So it's understanding whether that's your autistic self, your autistic child, or your autistic family members, explaining changes before they happen, being low arousal, avoiding demands, reasonable adjustments, and making sure you've had that safe space. So I think we've covered all this because we on slide bingo, we've kind of talked through it, haven't we?
Yeah, and this is sort of, it applies to anyone who has relatives who are autistic, or for those who are spending time, these still count as well.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. What have we got on the next slide, Ben? Parents. Self-care, choosing what to attend. Kids have brilliant excuses for not attending things. Low arousal and demands, safe spaces, and knowing that you can say no. And if you can't say no, be the second person to leave. Hire David in his bookshelf. And make sure you've got an excuse to leave early and go later so you can leave earlier.
Yeah, but the trick is, don't leave before I do, because people get suspicious. They'll be like, "Why is everyone avoiding David?" Like, if you need, we've got, it's got to be a surprise for my big dramatic exit to work.
Yeah. David in his bookshelf, available for hire at Christmas dues near you.
Bar mitzvahs. I mean, whatever you want. Yeah.
Yeah.
Weddings, funerals, you name it. Yeah.
I think there's something that I don't know what slide this would go on, but there's something I started doing a couple of years ago, and that's not wrapping presents. And I do it on and off now. Like, I feel like wrapping presents for me is exceedingly stressful. I don't have the patience for it. The tape gets stuck to itself. The scissors don't work. There's glitter on the bloody paper. There's this, that, and the other. And then you've wrapped something and you think, who the bloody hell have I wrapped that for? What was that for now? Just the whole thing. Like, I just put things
I totally get it.
in bags now. I just put things in bags.
You can get those nice gift bags. That's kind of that's so much less low stress. And if you gift bags, and then maybe if you put some tissue paper or whatever, and done.
Yeah. Oh, I'm so here for that.
Just a final note though. You can say no, but let's recognise that if you say no, you often then have to deal with all the crap that follows saying no. Because people will do their yeah, like absolutely say no. People have that right, and you should definitely exercise it. But be prepared that people don't like you saying no.
Yeah, for real.
Right.
Yeah. Jay had that for his Christmas meal he was supposed to go to a couple of days ago. And loads of people from the office were going, and they were like, "Oh, you're not coming?" And he was like, "Well, can I bring Katie?" And they said, "No, it's not for partners." And he went, "Well, no, I'm not going to come." And everyone was a bit like, "Oh, okay." And he said, "Well, I spend quite a lot of my time away from my wife and my child, so if I can't take them to dinner with me, then bye, I'm not coming." Like, yeah, so it's stuff like that. Like, don't feel like you have to go to the office party and you have to go to this, and it's all nonsense at the end of the day. Just do what makes you happy and what keeps you safe.
Yeah, and it's a keeping safe thing, isn't it? Because not everybody can say no. I think that's what we're kind of getting at. So just think of ways to minimise that kind of exposure, really, if you can. And make sure you've got plenty of time for spoons either side.
And a David in a bookcase.
And a David in a bookcase to come and throw it in parties. Yeah. So, Priscilla, you wanted to talk about a podcast, didn't you?
Yeah, so I missed the sort of the good news bit at the start. I was going to talk about it, but no, it was just because there was the BBC did a podcast about autism and cults, which was presented by Richard Turner, who is someone I've spoken to before. He has talked a lot about his autism and how he got into a I forgot what they were called it. I think they were like a Pentecostal church cult. But yeah, so he did this program where he was looking at people sort of around the world who, like, places like America and stuff, who'd realized that part of the reason why a lot of the reason why they got into a cult was because of autism. And I just felt like, because I've been talking about it, and there's not been many other people doing that. It's been me, Richard Turner, maybe someone else, like, maybe a kind of couple other people. So just to see something like that, and the BBC was like, it was really good. It was really good just to see it's starting to trickle into the mainstream a bit more. People are starting to understand this connection, because it did feel like for a while it was just me and maybe one other person or like two other people. So the fact that to the point of having a BBC podcast, that for me is like, okay, it's like I feel like this is kind of getting somewhere now. People are starting to realize these connections. I think maybe David, you're sort of maybe feeling that about. It's the same with sort of autism and addiction. And
yeah, absolutely. Because, once again, like when I came into this community, I started writing because no one was talking about being autistic and experiencing addiction. And this year, I've seen a lot more sort of pages run by autistic people, a lot more advocates opening up and saying, well, actually, like drug use, alcohol use, this is things that I have struggled with. And it's a really significant moment for me, because for years I have felt like I'm in this alone. Like, I know that they're out there, but no one else is talking about it. But now other people are saying, no, this has been an issue for me and it's something we need to talk about. And for me, it really culminated with the fact that there has been quite a large piece of research it's out of the University of Cambridge, who, if you remember the Spectrum 10K stuff from earlier, we have some mixed feelings about them. But the fact that the University of Cambridge actually published research which kind of confirmed what I've been saying for years, which is that autistic people are more likely to self-medicate, that's huge. So it's coming into the mainstream. These lesser talked about aspects of autistic experience, they're turning into, they're gaining momentum. And I think that's a really important thing for the autistic community.
Really important, because these are all connected. Like, this is me and David talking about collaborating, because it's just all so connected. There's so many cults that actually prey on people who have got drug addiction issues. And you think about the amount of issues that David, you talked about with AA, and I know Scientology has got Narcanon, and we've got all these which is bringing people with vulnerabilities, saying you don't need drugs, just join our cult. Basically, we'll get you off drugs, join our cult.
And not to mention that when it comes to addiction, you have to consider criminal exploitation, and a lot of the tactics that are used in criminal exploitation are similar to the tactics used by cults. So the fact that these two lesser talked about aspects in our community have been talked about this year has been huge, because
I'm really saddened by it. It feels very validating, especially when the annoying thing is when you have like a hunch and you do your research that you can, but there is no proper research on it. So all you can do is, well, it's based on my experience, it's based on my observation, but where's the data? I don't have the data. If you fund me and if you taught me how to do that, like, maybe I could go and collect the data. But this is I've just got to go on my personal experience and what I know instinctively and what I've observed, and at this stage it can only be anecdotal, but I've got a really good hunch. And it's like waiting for people to go, okay, we're going to actually do a study on this. We're actually going to have some data, and it's like, come on.
There's so much crossover, because I worked quite a bit with David, because I work mainly in kind of like social care, education, children's stuff. So there's a lot of county line stuff that I do, and kind of like child vulnerable to exploitation. So obviously that crosses over with David, But yeah, you're right with the cult thing, the tactics, it's all the same. It's all the same. I mean, one thing that I really am hoping to push in the next couple of years is that, you know, when we've got county lines issues, if you like, children being exploited, we're not looking at any SEN at all. We're not looking, are they neurodivergent? Are they, you know, nobody's looking at that. So, and we've seen that so much on things that I can't talk about, but any of you that know what kind of work I do, I see it so much as well. But yeah, it's all interlinked and interconnected. But yeah. So,
I mean,
but you know, with the change in the representation in the media, with some mandatory training coming in, with, you know, because even just in the last year, we've noticed a lot of changes in the nuance, like the detail of the things that are being talked about, the way, you know, just in the last year, the way that autistic characters are being portrayed to be more just realistic rather than one or the other, one extreme or the other. So maybe, you know, people are realizing that, you know, autistic people are people too. Who knew? You know?
I am. It's a Christmas miracle.
A real Christmas miracle, yeah.
Yeah, I find that on a lesser level with kind of the intersection of trans and autistic experiences as well. That's really exciting to be seeing much more of that, and not also much more of that, but by trans and or non-binary autistic people as well. Like that's super exciting.
What I will say about autistic, trans and non-binary in my kind of sector is actually what's been really refreshing for me, because obviously, you know, I'm always brought in when it's anything to do with autism, and there's massive overlap with like gender identity and autism. But actually, I would say that local authority NHS attitudes towards trans and non-binary has actually been surprisingly good so far in my experience. Touch wood. Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah, so this is good, because I don't think maybe a year or two ago, like I'm starting to see the kind of good stuff coming through, even if it's not much.
Do you think there's more training now, or like sort of more awareness training?
I don't think it's training, no, because actually there is no guidance. Trust me, I haven't. Can you remember that rabbit hole, guys? The laws and the guidance is not there, but actually I think it's just general attitudes to like, why have you got a problem with trans people? What's that about? You know, why is that your business? You know, that kind of thing, really. And I don't know, I'm hopeful. Things are getting really, really bad because of like funding cuts. And we can't deny that. You know, we know what the NHS is going through. We know what local authorities are going through. We know how many autistic young people and older people and everybody really are dying and going through horrendous things. But the attitudes are really shifting quickly. I feel like I just said something really profound then, because you all sat there silent.
I think I'm just contemplating it all.
Yeah.
Okay, so good stuff, really. But I think we were going to do the 12-day Christmas statistics next, weren't we?
Oh, yeah. You going to sing, David?
No.
So we did 12 days of Christmas last year, didn't we?
Yeah, I feel like
we're volunteering Priscilla now.
Yeah, I'm a singer, so you know, I'll sing whenever.
We've got it.
Do we have anything to put up on screen as we go through these statistics? Good. Okay. So I think the best thing we can do is just read it out and pretend that we sang. Okay. So for everything that's about to come out of my mouth, just imagine me singing in like a really soothing Michael Bublé sort of voice, you know.
Barry White. Yes.
I'm there with the wind blowing through my hair, like, you know, like the because she's worth it advert.
I don't know, David. Imagining you with hair is one step too far for me. I'm sorry.
Believe it or not, I used to have very long hair. I used to have hair that came halfway down my back, and that was very long hair because I'm 6.5 foot tall.
Oh my God.
Okay. Can we see?
I need to see pictures.
Yeah, I need pictures too.
Ben, can we see? So on the first day of Christmas, Aucademy gave to me One Aucademy C.
CIC.
Okay, on the second day of Christmas, Aucademy gave to me six social media platforms and one Aucademy CIC. I'm trying to read this backwards now. This is a memory test, isn't it?
We are slowly taking over the internet.
On the third day of Christmas, Aucademy gave to me 9 Facebook groups, 6 social media platforms, and 1.
Hang on, we're still on 3, aren't we?
Yeah.
What's next? 4? What have we got now? 21 video playlists. Can we remember what the last one was?
Yeah, 9
Social media platforms.
9 Facebook groups? Oh,
Yeah,
God.
9 Facebook groups, 6 social media platforms, and 1 Aucademy CIC.
Aucademy CIC.
Yay, well done. 33 modmins.
Yeah, 33 amazing modmins. You can't leave out the amazing here because they do a lot of work.
Yeah, completely amazing. I'm not going backwards. I can't go backwards.
No.
Okay, it was 33 modmins, 9 social media platforms, 21 playlists, 6 social media platforms, and 1 Aucademy CIC.
Hey!
Woo! It's a Christmas miracle.
What's next?
119 guests.
Oh, wow. That's pretty
Was that just this year?
Yeah.
Oh, is that total?
That's in total so far.
Okay. So
Okay,
since
that's
Aucademy
it.
started, we have had 119 guest speakers.
So 119
start?
guest speakers,
Again.
33 amazing modmins,
21
video playlists, 9 Facebook groups, 6 social
social
media
media
platforms,
And one
Aucademy
Okay, so on the 7th day of Christmas, 227 videos. It's a little excessive, isn't it, guys?
I don't know. I'm in about 200 of them.
Start of Aucademy or this year now. I'm getting confused.
This is what happens when an autistic person's dedicated interest is autism. 227 videos.
Wow.
Yeah. What we got next? On the 8th day of Christmas, Aucademy gave to me 11,900 likes. It couldn't just be 12,000 for the 12 days of Christmas, could it?
And it has to be, we can't round it up because we're autistic. So. Has to be exact.
On the 9th day of Christmas, Aucademy gave to me 16,600 followers.
That's impressive.
It's good.
Oh, wow.
Very cool.
30,535 comments.
Most of them are
Nice.
about mayonnaise
Or
and salad cream.
Or
1
potatoes.
million people reached.
Okay, that one's a big one, though, because we have reached over 1 million people.
That's great. And do we know from which areas they're coming from? Was that
No.
break down the data?
I mean, do you know how difficult it was to get all the...
Okay, but here's one for the Aucademy else. Next year, we have to name each of those
Oh, I
million.
want a map. I want a
Yeah,
map,
yeah.
please.
That's
Okay.
just the rest of the webinar now. Like the rest of the.
So on the 12th day of Christmas, Aucademy gave to me 759,000 minutes viewed.
That's I happen to know, thanks to the musical Rent, that's more than a year.
Okay.
It is.
And 1 Aucademy CIC.
Yeah.
Oh,
So I think Tigger sent us a little video because Tigger did this with us last year, didn't he? But you can't do it this year because spoons and things do. So shall we see what Tigger's got to say?
Aucademy, hi everybody. Yeah, Tigger, Mrs. Pebbles, with a really quick video to say I hope the festive season and the break is really kind to you and really awesome and really lush. We've been really a bit busy and a bit stuck of late, so there's lots I need to do in 2023, really. So you'll see a bit more of me. I've been doing some great stuff with young David and a few lives here and there, but I'm hoping to do more next year because I want to and I've got to. But to everybody, it's really a very short video from me and Mrs. Pebbles, who is now 14 years old and is very looking forward to Christmas. to get some Christmas treats. But to all of you, thank you for being there. Thank you for watching Aucademy. Thank you for taking part in all the lives. Thank you for joining in with what we do. So look after yourselves. Stay safe. Stay awesome. Be lush as ever. And take care. Bye.
Well, that was a really nice. Tigger, I think we said this before. Tigger needs to, be like a children's TV show presenter. He's got that real like Blue Peter vibe going on there, hasn't he? But it's just I love it when Tigger sends stuff. It's always so wholesome, and he's just like he's human ice cream. You've got to love him.
No.
He's
Okay.
He's like a cheerleader. Like, do you know when something good happens? He just sends you the voice notes with the happiest cheerleady stuff. You just want to keep him up the stairs and bring him out when you're feeling a bit glum, don't you?
Yeah.
He's a hype man.
Yeah. So I think to finish off, Ben is going to teach us because Ben's been learning sign. So Ben is going to teach us all to sign happy holidays to say goodbye. You ready, Ben? How do we do it? So happy holidays.
Yeah.
So happy holidays. So happy holidays, everyone. And I believe that we're doing some kind of Zoom social or something on Christmas Day. Details will probably be to follow.
We are. I think we're running it because it's on a Sunday this year, Christmas Day. I believe we're intending to run the social at the usual time of, is it 8 till 10 is the usual time? And it's not going to be the usual facilitators necessarily. I think some of us are sort of pitching in to make sure that the people who do the regular facilitating get a chance to perhaps come to the social and socialize rather than be facilitators. But all are welcome. Come along. Be autistic in an autistic space on Christmas Day. Make space for you, and happy holidays. Did I get that right? Happy holidays? Yes. Tanya's there trying to do the Macarena and not realizing she's got it on
I really want to learn sign so bad.
Tanya, you do know your view, right?
Yeah, well, no, I was like, is it like this? I can't remember. Then I realised I must have looked really silly because I was on. Never mind. Okay, is it awkward wave time?
Yeah. Or we can just keep doing. What was it? Happy holidays until it goes on.
I can't even remember.
Happy holidays.
Yeah.
Right. Bye, everyone.
Awkward wave.
Happy holidays.